Jonny, how are we?
I'm very well, thank you, Jack. How are you?
Really good, really good. For those that are listening, this is our second take. We recorded yesterday, but really struggled with the technology, even though we work in tech. We had a few difficulties, but we're live, we're here. We're going to give it a first run through. For those that are listening, Sales and Sports was really created to spread the awareness of a career in tech sales from all walks of life. You know, we're looking to bring great people on from the world of sports, but the world of tech sales as well. And our main motto while we created Entr Tech was to spread awareness of a career in tech sales to anyone. And we really feel that through talking about sport and also the sales development role, our experiences, how we got into the industry and those that are coming on, we can really spread that awareness and educate those that are maybe tech curious or sales curious as well. So that's been a bit of background to Sales and Sports. We want to keep it conversational for those that are coming on that love sports or love tech. Thank you for listening in. Our first guest this week, I'm very happy to say, is one of my colleagues and a head of partnerships and academy experience at Entr Tech, Jonny Mpoyi. Take it away. Give us a bit of a background to yourself, Jay, why you joined Entr Tech and your role at Entr Tech and the work you've done so far over the last couple of months.
You know what? You've done well pronouncing my second name right.
Yeah.
a lot of people struggle with that. But no, thank you so much. Thank you for having me on. Obviously, I'm excited. We've been speaking about this for a while. You know, we love sports, we love sales. So bringing it together, it's a fantastic opportunity for us to just sort of have fun, really, and educate people and bring an element of awareness to the industry. So, of course, as you mentioned, my name is Jonny Mpoyi. I'm the head of partnerships and academy experience at Entr Tech. So I look after the academy side of things once the guys are on the course throughout the 4-week period, making sure everybody's okay. They've got everything they need. They're understanding the industry, and they've got that element of, you know, mental support, which is crucial. And the other side of things, I'm looking after the partnerships, so employer partnership, universities, and, you know, different organizations, charities, so anything partnership, basically. And in terms of why I joined Entr Tech, I think the mission, the name itself gives it away, right? Entr Tech. I always say to people, I fell into tech. I didn't enter tech, right? Because I was originally going for a recruitment role. I had no idea that there was this world of tech sales that existed, and you know, I had no idea how rewarding it can be. So, you know, when I went for the interview, the recruitment interview at an agency, I had an assessment day, and when I got there, that's when I realized that actually I'm not applying for the role for this company, but they're actually helping me find a job somewhere else. So I fell into the tech industry like that at Beyond Trust. But in terms of my journey and why I've sort of joined, you know, you right now, Jack, at Entr Tech, I think when I worked with you at Backstop, we shared that intensity and that element of, you know, drive and ambition to just succeed. But to be able to get that and mix it together with giving people an opportunity to break into an industry that's been so rewarding for both of us, I think it was far too good to turn down. And, you know, I'm really enjoying it. What's the word that you told me? What is it? How does it feel when you're doing something you like, something that pays you? Ikigai, is it?
Ikigai, I think so. I might be pronouncing it wrong.
Ikigai, that's it. Ikigai, you reminded me. Well, that's it. You know what I mean? I'm doing something I love, something that pays me, something that gives me freedom, but most importantly, helping people and, you know, feeling that element of purpose in what I do is crucial for me. So that's definitely why I joined.
Yeah. No, amazing. And for those of you that don't know the background, how me and Jonny met, we met at Backstop, the last company I was working for. I actually interviewed Jonny as part of his process to onboard at the company. And honestly, I was struck from the first 30 seconds we spoke. We didn't even meet in person. It was over Zoom, by Jonny's energy, his enthusiasm. And honestly, I think you're the most positive person I've met inside and outside.
Appreciate that.
He's really one of a kind. So obviously, as a founder, I'm so blessed and happy to have you on our team, and I really mean that. But yeah, it's interesting your, way into tech was completely, I guess, similar in some aspects to mine. So that was really the founding principles of, starting Entr Tech to spread that awareness and that education. So I left university after 4 years and had no idea what I wanted to get into. I thought you had to be a coder or a tech wizard to get into get into the tech industry, right? I had no idea that there was this side of tech sales, the commercial aspect. So it's really interesting that you had a similar path, and it took me 18 months from doing part-time work, putting up marquees, working behind bars, and also doing door-to-door sales where I sold cactus water, which is funny. We always say it's probably the hardest thing I'll ever have to sell. But from that, I went into the tech space through some amazing people who gave me a shot, an opportunity. Absolutely. And that's what we're trying to do with the academy, is really give people that education for free. And after 4 weeks, give them a platform where they can really launch their careers, but also progress their careers. We've got a mentorship scheme as well. So once they're placed, we help them and support them with that development as well. So yeah, Jonny's been incredible as well so far. Couldn't speak highly enough. For those that are listening or thinking of coming onto the academy, Jonny will be your first point of call till when you graduate. So yeah, amazing to hear that. I guess you've got a pretty amazing story as well, from your role before tech. Talk to me about Card Factory, but also take me back a little bit further to, when you were born and your upbringing to where you are today. I think that's a pretty powerful story, which everyone would love to hear.
No, definitely. Thank you. And obviously, I appreciate the kind words, but I definitely appreciate working with you as well. I think it resonates when you share the same energy and ambition and outlook on life. I think to carry that into business is an amazing feeling. But in terms of my story from when I was born, you know what? I always say to my friends, if Hollywood wants a movie, I literally just need to talk about it in the most humble way possible, because I think beginning back in the Congo, where I was born, 1997, January the 1st, I always say to people, I came into the world with fireworks. Hopefully I leave with fireworks. It's usually New Year's Day, people celebrating, and that's when I came into the world. But it wasn't, easy, right? So I was sort of born in Bujimai, a region called Bujimai in the Congo, and I was there from, when I was born, of course, till about 7 years old. And I think the reason why I'm able to enjoy every day and just take it into my stride and just feel absolutely blessed and lucky to sort of even be alive, never mind in the UK, never mind working in tech, never mind helping people get in tech, just incredible. I had a really difficult upbringing. My parents worked extremely hard. My uncles back home, everybody worked hard. But I think when you're in an environment where hard work isn't enough, that can be really discouraging. That can be really painful. And I think from a young age, I started to develop this mentality of thinking about ways to be successful, because you're growing up, and when you get to the age of 5, 6, probably 4, 5, 6, and upwards, you start to understand what's going on. And you look around, and there's always this story that really touches me. I remember one day, my dad was in Malawi and looking to get into the UK, but I was still in Africa, in Lubumbashi, my mom in the DRC. And I remember this story where mom used to be a teacher. She went to work, and it always stays with me, just honestly motivates me so much. She went to work, and we'd not had anything to eat all day. Me and my cousins meaning. And I remember she came back and she asked me if I'd ate anything, and she just said, I said, no, of course. But then to see how broken she was, and because dad had sent a couple of gifts in the past, like bags and, hails and stuff like that. I remember it was around 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. We went to the high street. She took her personal belongings and she set up a little stall from 8 o'clock onwards till about 11 o'clock. I remember just waiting to sell enough so that she could buy me food and then go home. Wow. But I remember when she was selling, I was behind the stall, sleeping, trying to sleep for a couple of hours because I had school the next day. Wow. And then I remember that story, walking back home with mom after she'd bought a couple of bits of food and stuff like that. And I remember thinking, how could a woman go to work, come back and still sacrifice so much to put something on my plate?
That's crazy.
So then you fast forward to when I was 8, well, 9 years old, came into the UK, didn't know a word of English. Again, that became its own challenge. We first arrived at London Heathrow, and then we drove down to Southampton, where we stayed for a couple of years, I think a year or two actually. Actually, it might have been a couple of months, but it felt like a couple of years because when I got there, I was still waiting for the paperwork to be processed. So Dad used to live in this shared house. Mom and Dad had a room, and then I had another room upstairs. But then I'm thinking, when you're in Africa, you go into Europe, you're thinking mansion, streets of gold, all this type of stuff. And all of a sudden I get here, my dad's a refugee. He's working in a fish company, in a fish factory. And then I'm in this room, I'm going to the toilet, shared toilet. And then these different rooms have different people that have no idea who they are. And Dad's telling me, just don't leave your room, be careful. I'm thinking, what is going on? I thought I was coming to England. But that was the reality at the time. And then the paperwork, immigration paperwork went through. We found housing in Manchester. And then that's the story where the Manchester story began. That was incredible. And then, of course, I started primary school. And then, again, I had no idea what English was. I couldn't speak it. I just remember people laughing, and you're trying to laugh with them, but now when I think back to it, they're probably laughing at me. You know what I mean? And I'm there laughing with them, thinking that they find me funny or something. But as time went on, all these experiences, and even up to now, they've developed a certain fire that can't be taught, that can't be learned, that can only be sort of attained through experiences in life. And that's why I say to people that join the academy, regardless of your past and what you've been through, you have to channel that into a certain type of fire that can then take you to the next level and be successful. So, of course, throughout my career, throughout my life, in primary school, high school, college, and uni, I was just working and pushing. And because I think at the beginning of the lack of language, I was never the cleverest, but you couldn't work harder than me. I refused to accept it. I may not be clever, but I work hard. But then that hard work over time brought that intelligence. That's why I do think hard work can definitely bring success. And then, of course, after uni, I studied management, transport, and logistics. And then I finished very much like yourself, Jack. I'm thinking, now what? You know what I mean? Like, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I went to uni in Liverpool. And I remember just looking around on Indeed for any job I could find. But because I studied management, transport, and logistics, I remember coming across the title, assistant store manager. I just saw the title and I was like, boom, I'm applying for it.
You saw manager and you thought, okay, Jose Mourinho 2.0.
Literally, I saw manager and everything just went over my head. Little did I realize that, of course, it was car factory. I didn't check the pay. I didn't check the hours. And when I went for my interview, I remember Lee, who was my actual store manager at the time. I've got a lot of love for him because he really looked after me and taught me a lot of values that I sort of carry with me. But he said to me, I remember him going, "Are you sure you're ready for this?" But I was thinking, yeah, as manager, I took it. And that was certainly an experience that I'll never forget. I worked at a car factory for 11 months. After 11 months, I said to myself, and of course with pressure from family, this can't be it. There's got to be something better. I was so driven to be successful, and that career wasn't meeting my ambition. And then that's when the sort of went for the recruiter and I went for the assessment day. And eventually, and I remember even the assessment day itself, like I got there, we were doing a couple of exercises, and then you have to give like a little speech at the end. Why you? Why do you think you'll be a good fit? And I just remember speaking a load of nonsense. And then at the end, I literally just looked at everybody in the room, all the hiring managers that were sort of spread out across the room. And I said, I'm a winner. You know what I mean? I said, whatever I do, no matter how I do it, I'm going to find a way to win. And I think that resonated with a guy that was in the room called Jack Finnis, who decided to give me an opportunity at a company called Beyond Trust. Amazing. And the rest is history, Jack.
Amazing. Shout out to Jack Finnis.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. I bet you would have scared some of the guys on the assessment day standing up and saying, I'm a winner. But I love that. I love that. We're all in, right? We're all everyone who comes through the academy. We say, everyone has to be all in. with
Absolutely.
your career. Once you leave the academy, even ourselves, people that we're looking to onboard and actually work alongside us, not through the academy, but also join Entr Tech as a full-time employee, they've got to be all in. And even just going back to your story, your family story, it sounds like your dad, your mum, even yourself, you know, everyone was all in, which is pretty powerful to hear. And also those, I guess, types of experiences are definitely, I can tell, have shaped you to who you are today, with your drive and your, I guess, that grit you have, which is interesting. And just touching upon my experiences, I mean, when I left university, there was no, I guess, set career path in terms of getting into tech sales. You know, I studied 4 years of business school. There was no, I guess, you know, ramp to go straight into the industry. There was, you know, the big four, PwC, KPMG, Deloitte, and it really didn't excite me in terms of a career. So that's why I was so lost, and it took me so long to get into the space. So it's interesting that you made that transition through Card Factory, which is super cool. And also what we say, you know, some of the folk we bring on board is any type of experience work-wise is great experience, because you're going to learn what you like, what you don't like, but also it's going to build that thick skin, right? You could be doing door-to-door sales, you could be working in hospitality, you could be potentially a recruiter, but there's lots of transferable skills you can take into the SDR role, right? It's just building that education and awareness to what an SDR is. I thought SaaS was something a Spanish waiter would give you on holiday. Do you know what I mean? I had no idea about the SDR.
I like that.
It's very funny. I guess, talk to me then again about your first SDR role and how you found it, the good, the bad, the ugly. I mean, we can touch upon traits as well, but also we'd just love to hear how you found the role coming in with no technical experience in sales, and how the onboarding and development was with your firm. Obviously not to put them in the spotlight, but just tell me, you know, how you found the role, and I guess what you liked, what you disliked, and maybe advice to people looking to get into the space for sure.
No, I think I don't mind putting them in the spotlight, because I think it's very, very positive. I think Beyond Trust, I always commend them from an onboarding perspective, from a coaching perspective, from a development perspective. They're truly world class. And I think I was very fortunate for that to have been my first SDR experience, because I know being an SDR is not easy. I was in a cybersecurity space. Honestly, I don't think you understand. I was terrified. I don't know if they knew that. I don't know if the manager Jack at the time knew that, or my team. But I was terrified, because I'm thinking cybersecurity, I have no idea. Tech industry, tech sales, I have no idea. Like a cold call, what is that? So everything, and I guess that sort of, you know, may have helped me actually when I think about it now, because I had no idea. I was literally an empty vessel.
For sure.
But I was so hungry.
You've got that sort of naivety where you don't know what you're doing wrong, and in some sense you're just trying out new things, right?
Exactly. So everything that I was being taught and everything I was being shown, I had this eagerness and hunger to just want to learn and understand what was going on, understand how to do a cold call, understand the product, understand everything really. And you know, by God's grace, I was able to. So the good in terms of that was that there was a fantastic team ethic and a work ethic in the beginning of that experience, right? Everybody, everywhere you look, you're seeing super motivated people, intelligent people, AEs, VPs, C-level, marketing, partnerships, every single person absolutely dedicated to being the very best in their role. And that gets passed down all the way to the SDR team. And I think that's why culture is crucial. Culture is important. Sure. And I think I sort of picked up on that from the people around me. And I was able to be supported and given all the tools I needed to just use my skill set to bring in the results that I had to bring in. So I think from a coaching perspective, onboarding perspective, atmosphere, environment, support, culture, like Beyond Trust, incredible. I think maybe a negative experience that I suppose a lot of SDRs would probably go through, depending on the environment and the leadership style, I think, Understandably, when you're in a competitive environment like that, and you've got I mean, at the time, it was just a bunch of lads that have come out of uni into this global company and they want to make an impression. So it was extremely competitive. And sometimes if that's not controlled, that can always go, above the line or beyond the line. But I think apart from that, you're really supported and you're listened to. And I enjoyed it because I was able to be exposed to, honestly, some incredible people, that just executed their calls and did things in a way that you just thought, you know what? Yeah, I want to be like that. I think looking back on it, if I had to improve anything, I'd probably spend a lot more time reading on the product, getting to know the product.
Interesting.
I've got this fearless mentality where I can pick up the phone and just get someone in a meeting, but that didn't always necessarily mean that I was learning about the product as much as I could have when I think about it, because I had the ability to sell the meeting rather than sell the product. I probably neglected the product side a little bit, but I think, I always encourage people now whenever I speak to them, you have to know your product inside out, because if you've got the skill set of making a cold call and you know your product, it'll take you far, even when you eventually go and become an AE.
100%. And I as well, when I first became an SDR, did the same thing, right? Because I was looking at what's making me my commissions at the end of the month. Cold calling, let's just fly into that. Let's spend 90% of my time cold calling, 10% doing emails. Was it probably a different spread, but at the same time, I had the same mentality. But those that are curious, I think it's a mistake SDRs make early on in their careers. But I think most companies that have a great feedback culture, have a great learning and development system in place, really do allow SDRs to realize the importance of being curious and also learning the product, because by being curious, you're going to, sit with marketing teams, product teams, and you're actually going to be able to articulate, communicate your product offering better, which is hopefully going to lead to better conversations, better meetings, and hopefully a lot more closed-won business. So, I guess we're really hot on partnering with companies that have a massive learning and development culture. For those that are listening, we find it our duty to find great people that want to get into tech, but also find great companies to match them with. We give them 4 weeks of training, which is inch thick. We want companies that are going to teach them, skill sets for their life and their career as well. So that's super cool. Tell me some other traits. And now we're on traits. Curiosity is one of them, which is super important. We touched upon your grit, and I guess that helped you in the role from your past experiences, which is obviously super important. I love David Goggins. You listen to the book after my recommendation.
Incredible.
And that's a great segue into sports, which we can touch upon. Tell me, for those that are listening and for those SDRs that are looking to get into the industry, what traits do you look for when you speak with individuals, and what traits can people develop or practice to excel within a career in tech sales, specifically through the SDR route?
No worries. Excuse me for that. I think for me, my outstanding trait, the first and foremost I look for in any human being, really, never mind the SDR role, but even more so in the SDR role, I think it acts as a foundation for everything else. Humility, being humble is crucial, because when you're humble, you're able to have an open mind to learn how to become a better person, to learn how to become better than you were yesterday. I think if you don't have that humility, even when you get into an SDR role, people are trying to coach you and help you, you will not listen, because you're probably going to start to think you're better than you are.
Interesting.
Which then leads me on to coachability, right?
Yep.
Whenever I speak to hiring managers, they want somebody that they can coach, right? Not somebody that they can bully or direct. There's a difference between coaching and telling someone what to do, right? Coaching is an element of sitting down together and finding a solution together on how you can get better results. But you need somebody that is willing to be able to listen and to do that. And one that I definitely underestimated at the beginning, and I think this is what the SDR role made me do. It made me sort of face up to my own shortcomings. I remember I used to try and cut corners all the time, but the SDR role really humbles you.
Mm-hmm.
Organization was crucial. I had to be organized in terms of timekeeping, understanding which sequences I had running, understanding what people from those sequences had replied. And of course, you had your tools like Outreach and Salesforce that helped you keep track of that. But if you don't stay on top of your CRM and you sort of your outreach tool and stuff like that, you could get really muddled up. For example, you find yourself on a call with an AE asking you how a call with a certain company went, and you're literally making.
We've all been there. We've all been there.
What I mean?
We've all been
there. I realized my own integrity and sort of reputation, internal reputation, being organized meant that whenever a question came from marketing or an AE or however it came from your manager, you're able to sit them down and take them through bit by bit, which is crucial. Being proactive is another trait that I think is crucial. You have to have a willingness to make things happen. You have to want to make things happen. And again, that can also be partnered up and linked with bravery, right? Because if you're not brave, you won't have that hunger and desire and proactiveness to go and make something happen. So I'd probably say those are sort of the key traits that I think you need. But of course, the biggest one that you touched on before, you just need grit as well. No matter what, it's going to be difficult, but you just need that element of that anchor, that why. Like, for example, I always say to people, mine is my family, but whatever it is, whatever gets you up in the morning, whatever gets you through the nose, whatever gets you picking up that phone, you need to remember that and make sure you just hold on to it and fight through the different challenges that come through. Have you got any that you'd add from that? Because they're the ones that really just come in from top of my mind.
No, I say bravery is a really underrated one, because you've got to be brave when you go into any role. I think the best SDRs are the ones that are willing to put themselves out there. You know, it can be quite daunting speaking to randomers or members of the public you don't know and cold calling them, but it also can be quite nerve-wracking internally speaking on a cold call in front of your peers or other SDRs or sales directors in the room. So I think by failing and learning to fail early in your career as an SDR sets you apart on the rest, because hopefully you're going to learn and also develop your skill sets along the way, which is going to accelerate your growth curve, right?
Absolutely.
So for most of the folk that come from the academy, they want to be account executives. So by really putting yourself out there and being willing to fail is huge. And then I think grit is everything, right? I mean, just turning up and doing the repetitions on days where you don't feel like you're 100%. You might feel like 70%, 80%. Just picking up the phone, getting the job done, putting in the reps. I guess you can relate it to sport in a way. I think it was Mike Tyson who mentioned, high performance is doing the thing you don't want to do, which is painful, but doing it like you love it, like you're obsessed with it. So I think by having that mindset, that mentality, you'll go a long way within sales, similar to sport, but also positivity, right? You want to have a smile on your face or just bring a good vibe and energy to your team members, your teammates, people around you, and having that positive mindset. I used to actually sit, with, I think it was 80 pounds in my drawer, and actually physically touch the wad of cash, because I had the mindset that the call was going to go so well, because I was thinking, believing, achieving. So I think mindset and that positive mindset is massive and allows you to have better conversations. When you have a positive body language, there's lots of research that goes with it, that if you're standing up with your chin up, shoulders back, maybe smiling, you're gonna have a better tone, you're gonna have a better aura, and also allows you to build a good brand internally. So I think positivity is massive when you're working within any team, right?
Absolutely.
It's like football. Teamwork makes the dream work.
Crucial. I've seen SDRs. I mean, the SDR role is difficult enough, but I've seen SDRs that have defeated themselves before the days even started, because the mindset, they've coming in complaining about everything Bob, Tom, and Harry, and you're thinking to yourself, you know what I mean?
They're probably turning up 10 minutes late as well.
You know what I mean?
No, it's true.
And they've already killed themselves before the days began. So I think mindset is crucial. There were days where honestly you'd make 80 calls and nothing's come through, but up until the last minute you're telling yourself it's coming. And I remember once actually, oh my gosh, this day was incredible. I prided myself in sort of hitting 100% or above every month. And I remember one day it just wasn't going through, and I needed one meeting, Jack, to hit my target. And I literally told myself, I don't care what time I have to leave or how many calls I have to do. I'm not going until I get that meeting. Like, and I remember, I'm literally not leaving.
Yeah.
And then it was like the 85th something call or something like that. And then I managed to get the meeting. And but no, just sort of reiterate mindset. If I don't have that mindset right after 60 calls or something like that, I give up because I'm thinking, what's going on? It's not my day today, and you start complaining, get distracted and stuff like that.
100%. I think it's like great sports teams, right? They have that mindset where they'll keep going to the 93rd, 94th minute.
Absolutely.
If you look at Real Madrid, knocking out City, I think a lot of that came down to mindset.
That was incredible.
Momentum's huge in sports. It's huge in sales, but also they were dead and buried after the first leg, even in the first half. Didn't look like coming into the game, but just by having that mindset, they could get back into the game. It was massive. So, yeah, I guess, and just quickly, just crossing over between the world of sales and sports, there's a lot of transferable and relatable skills. I mean, some of the best SDRs I've worked with used to be athletes or sportsmen and women. And lots of them might have been, cross-country runners, swimmers, individual sports, because there's always that, I guess, competitive fight with yourself internally. And also it's good to have competition with teammates as well. So I guess just touch upon that and what you think are skills that are transferable between the two realms.
I speak about being competitive quite a lot, but I think what I've realized, like with anything in the world, depending on your perspective of a word or an idea, it can influence how you apply it. I think the first competition you have, and I know it sounds quite cheesy and everybody says it, but genuinely, it's yourself. Like, if you can't motivate yourself to be better than you were yesterday, you're doing yourself a disservice. And what that does, it creates this element of anxiety and self-doubt, which then rubs off on other people in the sense that you start to think of other people in a negative way. And being competitive within a team, as long as it's kept healthy, it's crucial. I want to speak about a very good friend of mine, Tristan Wagner. Is still at Beyond Trust, actually, in a different role. And being in the SDR team, we pushed each other to the limit. We loved each other and we supported each other. And that was the interesting thing, right? When we needed help, we knew that the other person would definitely give you as much help with sincerity and humility, as much sincerity and humility as possible. But at the end of the day, we'd say to each other at the beginning of every month, I am going to beat you. I want to get more meetings than you. Like, we had that camaraderie, and they'd look at me in the eye and say, try your best because I'm going to beat you. But because we still like helping each other, it was healthy, but we were pushing each other to do numbers like calls and every little thing, and it was healthy. But again, that has to be kept within a line that is healthy for everybody. So I think being competitive is crucial. Like, you have to hate to lose against yourself, hate to lose against your teammates. But even more importantly, if you're working for a company, you have to internalize the values and hate to lose against your competition. When I was working at Beyond Trust and wherever I've been, I won't mention the name. I can't even mention the name. There was a company that I literally used to sort of visualize an SDR in that company that looks after my region, going after my clients. And I used to say to myself, there's no way I'm letting that happen.
It's not happening. Not
that's my territory. Do you know what I mean? So that's really healthy. I think communication is crucial because, of course, my background in football, communication is crucial because if you're in a football team, people have different roles, different positions, but there's only one scoreline. I think when you see the SDR sort of functional or sort of working team environment, if you're not able to communicate, and not just communicate, but communicate effectively, right? Understand each other's strengths and weaknesses and understand how different people communicate best. Some people communicate visually. Some people communicate, audio, and some people communicate by body language. There's so many different ways of communication. I think investing some time in understanding how your team communicates and communicating in a way that suits them best is crucial. I mean, Jack, there's so many, but I think organization as well, understanding your role and sort of doing your very best in that role so that you can keep the cog turning over. I mean, in a way, one would argue that sales is a form of sport. You know what I mean? At this rate, because you're competing against other people. You've got a team and you've got your own individual targets, and you've got to work in a certain way to bring about the end result, which is very similar to sport. So I think we can be here all day, but I think being competitive, communication, organized, and I touched on this yesterday, strategy. I've seen a lot of people work.
In what sense?
Because Jack, I've seen a lot of people work hard, but they're working hard in the wrong areas. In life or in a team or in a company, understanding what the end result is, understanding what the end goal for a company is, and then developing a strategy that allows you to achieve that end result as efficiently, as quickly as possible is essentially the very foundation of a strategy, right? So, I mean, for example, for me and you right now and the rest of the Entr Tech team, every time we meet on a Monday morning, for example, we're really looking at, okay, what is it we're looking to achieve? And what are we doing this week to achieve that, right?
Get there, for sure.
If everybody just wakes up and goes, come on, guys, let's work hard. I could be working hard at eating pizzas, you know what I mean? I could be working hard at just looking on LinkedIn all day. That's not bringing us closer to the
100%.
goal. So I agree. That's crucial as well in sport and sales.
I agree. If you look at some of the best, football teams or sports teams, strategy is everything, right? The way they recover. It might not just be the amount of hours they're putting on the pitch, it's their recovery, how they're looking after their bodies, what they're putting in their bodies as well. So I think strategy is key in both sales and sports. Just touching upon competition, it's interesting because I was watching some of the build-up to Champions League final last week. We won't talk about the Champions League final. But for those that are listening, I'm a big Liverpool fan. But during the build-up, I think Rio Ferdinand was interviewing Mo Salah, and Salah was asked the question, you and Mane must be super competitive, and sometimes it looks like you don't like each other. And he was saying, we completely love each other, but that internal competition drives them both. And he was really candid and said, of course we're competing against each other. We're teammates, but we both want to be the best versions of ourselves. So I think some SDR managers in the past, and I've actually interviewed at a certain company when I was looking to get in, they said, I was talking about my accolades and what I've done, and they said, we don't like competition within the team, and I was a bit taken back. So I think competition is so important in any sales role, but I guess it's still being that team player, and as long as it's not toxic competition, it's going to drive everyone forward. So I love that from you, Jay.
Crucial.
And then, obviously communication is huge, obviously, to build your brand internally, to speak with your colleagues and learn best practices. That's going to drive everyone forward. So, I mean, some really, really interesting points. And organization, obviously, is massive as well. And
I think, sorry, just one more to add on top of that. I was just thinking about it as you're speaking. Identity. Right? Identity is crucial, and having an element of accountability and having an accountable structure to maintain and to make sure that everybody meets and represents the identity of a team, right? For example, we speak about sports. When you think about Liverpool, you know exactly how they play and what they're going to do. Like, if you get a transfer to that team, you know what to expect. You speak about City, the exact same way. I mean, of course, you can argue that when you speak about United, nobody has a clue right now. And of course, that's being shown in the results. But then the thing is, it's not even always about the more successful teams. But even when you look at Burnley, when they were in the Prem, they had an identity, and that gave them success for a while. But guess what? You take away the leader of that, right? The identity is lost. And of course, they sort of went downhill a little bit. But I think in sales teams as well, you have to ask yourself, what is the identity of our team? Or are people just turning up every day and being whoever they want to be and representing and giving out whatever energy they want to give out, because there isn't an accountable structure then to make sure actually we don't do that over here. We're a competitive environment, but we're not toxic. You can't you can't speak badly about a teammate. You know, you can't steal someone's leads in this team. You can't do fake calls on this team. You know what I mean? Like, there has to be an identity and people have to stick to that.
It's small things as well, I think, having that identity and that it goes back to culture, right? I think in the past it used to be very much, I guess, maybe a macho environment sales, right? If you look at the Wolf of Wall Street, the way they portray sales, at the end of the day, it was in the finance sector, but that was sales. If you look at, I guess, the British culture is very much everyone goes down to the pub, and I think it's good to socialize out of work. Don't get me wrong, and you know, I love having a good pint with my colleagues, but you know, you've got to be open to other cultures and other people that might not drink, for example. So I think having a nice culture where you can bring out the best of everyone, but also align in ways where everyone feels welcomed is super important. And I guess that brings me back to, diversity. You know, if you look at some of the best teams in the world at the moment, sports-wise, you know, it's not a Liverpool podcast, but if we go back to the Liverpool lineup, for example, there's so many different nationalities across, you know, different, you know, continents across the world. You've got Salah, Mane from Africa. You've got Firmino from South America. You've got obviously the English-Scottish contingent. So it's really bringing together different cultures to create that one identity. And I think the best teams have that diversity on their, you know, roster and their lineup. So would love to know your take on it, and obviously your your path into the industry and breaking in. Did you find there were certain barriers put up being a black male, and did you find it tricky? And I guess what's your take on having diverse teams and the importance of it?
No, of course. I think in this country, as much as we don't like to admit it, I think everybody wants to sort of create this narrative of, oh, look at the UK, we've got people from all these different backgrounds and nationalities and stuff like that. But that doesn't mean that they are accepted, right? They're here, but I feel like in certain environments, people are only comfortable when people of a diverse background stay in a place as such, do specific certain type of jobs. And I think what's a shame, because I think people have an attitude towards, you know, typical black male or whatever race people may be, that is so negative to the individuals that it's normalized to the point where they don't even realize anymore. I think for me, the crucial thing that I speak about with diversity, I always say to people, if you're going to be diverse, and you scream and speak about being diverse, you have to ensure that your culture and the mentality, again, the brand identity, that people are ready to accept diverse people. Don't just bring in diverse people for the sake of taking a box if your environment and the mentality doesn't support that. Because having been somebody that's been in an environment where you probably feel like, why am I hitting my target every month? Why am I doing well? Why am I the best of the team? But yet, why am I the lowest paid?
Interesting. Wow.
Right. And if you don't have these conversations and about, you know, wages and stuff like that within a team as well, I never would have known. And, you know, we have a culture where, for example, there's so many little things, Jack, and it can be done in a way that is so patronizing, but everybody else doesn't recognize it or realize it because it's accepted. It's not brought to the fore. It's not a problem that's been spoken about or educated on. So it's difficult. But luckily, I've always had a mentality where I never wanted to consider myself a victim. The experience I've been through gave me that greater mentality. But unfortunately, I have had people that have suffered from this, and people's mentalities of careers have taken a massive hit because, you know, they've not been able to handle the sort of covert racism that exists in the workplace. And because these buzzwords are so scary to lawyers and and you know the C-level people,
HR. Yeah.
HR and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Those conversations aren't had enough.
It's not openly discussed, right?
It's not openly discussed. You sort of,
Yeah.
and even when you do experience, you have to whisper it to somebody that you can trust rather than feeling comfortable enough. So it's difficult. But my big thing is, and I see it a lot in a lot of places right now, and that's why I'm so passionate about our mission, Jack. Because when we speak to companies, one thing that I want to make sure is, I don't care how much business you're going to bring us. If I don't feel like our candidates would be going into an environment that is healthy and that is genuinely diverse in mentality and physically as well, then we're not going to sign the contract. You can keep it, right? 100%. There are certain values and principles that will always be a little bit more important than the sum of money on the table. And I think, you know, I'm really passionate about that because I want to make sure that we're giving people an opportunity in an environment that can enhance their life rather than make them feel marginalized or, you know, out of place. So in summary, I love that there's a big diversity push, but as long as people aren't making it a tick box exercise and actually genuinely, mentally, financially, culturally, everything, be open to diverse people. And I'm not saying, and this is the thing, I'm not saying treat people of a diverse background more importantly or put more focus or highly. Absolutely not. But fairly. You know what I mean? It has to be fairly. You can't scream diversity on your website. And then when we look at the pay structure of the different team members and we look at the way you treat different people, the way you respect certain holidays and the way you speak about certain continents, and it can't be, you know, just done negatively for the sake of it. So I love the push, but people have to be ready to truly have a diverse environment.
No, really interesting, and thank you for sharing that. That's huge. Really appreciate. The listeners are obviously going to really value that, and I think there's a lot of learnings to come from that. It's interesting from my standpoint because the tech industry is so innovative and fast paced, but there's still such a long way to go with the diversity. From the diversity standpoint, if you look at lots of the public listed companies, lots of the unicorns, obviously things are changing, moving in the right direction, you'd hope, but there's still a long way to go. If you look at the CROs, the CEOs of all these businesses, you know, you've got to think, where do they come from? And that's really from the bottom. So the SDR role is such an amazing role because it allows individuals to learn about the products, about sales. They can move into marketing, sales, products. But by bringing in a diverse pool of talent from the bottom, you'd hope that would filter up to the future CMOs, CROs, CEOs of the business world within tech. So that's why we have a massive push on it, right? So
absolutely. You know what's interesting when you touched on that? What I've realized as well, as much as the tech industry is to blame, the education industry as well, because having come from an ethnic background, my dad, when I was growing up, you have to be mechanical engineer. You have to do science, math. And there's a mentality within the parents and the families of people from an ethnic background that doesn't encourage tech, not because it's a bad industry, but because they're simply not educated on the rewards and the benefits, right? So that's why our educational and awareness piece, the fact that we can take people and take them through a journey of, okay, regardless of what you've done, as long as you've got a little bit of experience, even if you don't have experience, it doesn't matter. Here's what you need to succeed in tech sales. Here's what we're going to teach you. Here's where you're going to be in a year, 2 years, and here's how much you could earn. I mean, the amount of times we've seen people go, wow. You know, I mean, that feeling is priceless, right? But I think educating people and bringing that awareness is crucial as well.
Amazing. I love it. Awesome. And then I guess transitioning to sports, I guess we spoke about the traits of great sportsmen and women, but talk to me about your experiences in sports as well. I know you play a lot of football and you're a big Chelsea fan. We'll get into Chelsea soon, but tell me, you know, what are your best memories of playing sports and how that shaped your personality today?
No, I think sports, it's played a massive role in my life. I mean, I remember from the streets of Africa, we literally, on the street, you literally get whatever, or 2 pieces of rock, 4 pieces of rock, and you make nets on either side and kids from the whole like neighborhood. You don't even know who's on your
Yeah.
team. You have to get that ball and dribble. You know what I mean? And when I came into the UK, it was a little bit more organized and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I was playing for the school team. And I've got a really fond memory of my last year in year 11, playing football for Newcastle Academy, formerly known as Stamford and Hartshead. I have to give them a shout out. And Ashton on the line, to give a shout out from where I'm from. And, you know, it's funny because that team from year 7 to year 10, we were awful, poor. But then when I even look at that and some of the lessons I could learn from that, we were so disorganized. We weren't committed. Nobody turned up for training. We weren't communicating. Half of us didn't even like each other. But when we got to year 11, we realized, we said, you know what? It's our last year. Let's give it a proper go. Let's start turning up for training. Let's start doing things outside, school. Let's start training together at lunchtime and stuff like that. And I remember that year 11 team, we won the league, we won the cup, we won the Man United Cup Foundation. We got in the newspapers, we went unbeaten the whole year.
Wow.
And I will tell that story for as long as I can remember, to my kids, my grandkids. And I also played for Centre of Excellence as well, team side. And I think there was a point where I had to pick between football and education. And I remember my dad going, listen, you're not doing football. At the time, of course, everybody thinks they're going to make it. So I felt so bad. I felt so sad. My dad never took me to the training session I had to go to get selected to sort of go to the next stage. And after that, you sort of fall out of love with the sport a little bit because you realize, why have I been doing what have I been like? Why have I been working so hard for?
Sure.
But no, that memory is a fond memory in terms of winning the cups with the U11 team because, a few of those teammates to this day, when you see each other on social media pop up, it's almost like the Hall of Famers. And that trophy, funnily enough, the trophy are still in the school that my little brother goes to now in high school. So every time I go back for parents' evening and stuff like that, I just have to go and stare at it for at least 10 minutes. Just shake it.
Give it a good polish. Give it a good polish and maybe a kiss.
Just my experience of sports, and I think it shaped me a lot because, it develops a certain element of dedication and
discipline,
like I said before, discipline, competitiveness, and teamwork, and again, communication. It was crucial.
Amazing.
Really enjoyed it.
Amazing. That's super cool. And I guess we give a bit of knowledge to some of the folk that come through the academy, how you should really look to become maybe a professional athlete and look after yourself and look after your body, look after your mind. What things do you do to really switch off and make the most of your time out of the office and out of work, so you can be at your peak performance when you do sit down at your desk and it is Monday morning at 8 a.m.?
Great question. I think the usual in terms of from an exercise perspective, I've got a bar in my place and I've got an exercise bike out on my balcony, and in the morning I'll go on that for a couple of minutes and do a bit of the bar, just stay in touch. You know what I mean? There are guys that are going to the gym 7 days a week, and I'm thinking, I've got to do something. But I think the biggest one for me is my faith. My relationship with God and reading the Bible is crucial to me, because I think sometimes you can get caught up in the world, and you can get caught up with things that happen in the world. And, there's a saying as well where people say you only live once. So people do the maddest of stuff. But I think for me, the Bible is a way of life in the sense that it reminds you of your responsibility to your fellow human. I always recommend to people, like, even if you're not a Christian, try reading the Bible, try reading the Proverbs, for example, because sometimes it reminds you of your duty to yourself as well. And it gives you that hope that outside of the stress of the world and the expectation and the pressure and family, work, colleagues, friends, wherever, you have something that's just makes you feel in touch with yourself again, that you can sort of recenter, and really understand and remember your purpose and why you're on earth. And I think before I sort of start my day, I have to do that, because if I don't, then things just build up and add up. So when I do that, I feel refreshed. I feel like I've been re-energized, and I feel like there's a greater power than me and than anything in the world that will always be sort of looking out for me. I used to work with a colleague called Mark Bahis, and he said to me, providence. He was spiritual, and providence means knowing that everything's always going to be okay, and there's always a power and a presence around you, no matter how tough things get. There's something watching over you that's making sure that everything turns out okay. You just have to do your part, and your part is to not give up. And I love that, and it really keeps me going.
Powerful. That's powerful.
How about you? What do you do to sort of recenter and sort of re-energize and go again?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think we discussed it briefly yesterday. From my standpoint, it'd be running. I love to run when I can. Obviously, the last couple of months I've let myself go, but just keeping on top of a routine and trying to run for 5K at least 5 times a week if I can.
That's crazy. 5K.
Yeah. If you look at my Strava, it tells a complete lie. Maybe only 3 runs the last month, but also meditation. I've tried meditating before. Again, that's something I've maybe neglected in the last couple of months. But when I get into a rhythm for 30 minutes a day, it really does set me up for the day, and it allows you to have that clear mind when you're not thinking about anything else, and you're just being present, right? And going back to within. So I think that's super important. And then cups of tea throughout the day to just switch off from work, right? It's very British, but green tea.
I love
British
that though.
Tea,
I love going on walks as well. I'm not sure about you, but morning walks, after evening walks. It's at the end of the day or before the day, you're just walking, just no earphones. They're just taking in the air, the birds, the sky, everything, just taking it all in. It's incredible.
Yeah. No, agreed. Walking. I live next to the park, Battersea Park. So,
nice.
Podcasting, walking, great. But yeah, you're right. If you have no headphones, even better, right?
Absolutely.
Cool. And then going to, I guess, Chelsea. Your experiences of supporting Chelsea. It's quite a niche one for you, because obviously you're living in Manchester. You had time in Southampton. Tell me how you became a Chelsea fan. Talk to me about your experiences supporting Chelsea, the highs, the lows, some great memories. I'd love to hear your side.
It's a funny story. This story, my best friend Alex doesn't let me forget. So basically, right, when I was in Africa, Chelsea had a load of black African players that were role models at the time. Didier Drogba, Etienne, Makelele, Desai, Anelka, Kalu. There was just so many. However, when I got to the UK, I started, when I was back in that Southampton room to begin with, I used to watch Match of the Day. And, when you first get into the UK, you don't quite understand how big football is. And when you don't know the language, you don't quite understand what everybody's going on about, really. But then I moved to Manchester, and I used to go to primary school, and my best friend, who I'm still friends with to this day, I love him, is a United fan. And he said, "This is the team you support." I didn't know English properly at the time. He's like, "This is who you support." And he's like, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I want to feel like I belong. I want to support what you support." Yeah. So for a long while, I was a glory hunter. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was just there like, yeah, United were winning everything at the time. But then the more I started to understand the country, the language, the culture, Chelsea got in a Champions League final. I think the 2008 one, 2008 one. Oh gosh, John Terry slips. United win the Champions League. Our friends are celebrating, but I'm sat there and I'm thinking, I should be happy. Why am I not happy? Like, I was sad that Chelsea lost, and I thought to myself, and that day I realized, they're my true love. You know what I mean? I told him the next day, I said, "Bro, you know what? I realized something. I'm not a United fan. I'm a Chelsea fan. So nobody can ever call me a glory hunter." I literally left the most successful team and went to Chelsea. And, as with every love story, the rest is history. we've had ups, we've had downs, the in between, but the love is still going strong today.
Love it, love it. And in terms of best experiences or best memories supporting Chelsea, if you could pick one moment and one player as well, would love to hear from you. You know, who's your all-time favorite, but also as a player, but also moments wise.
There's only one, right? There has to be only one Didier Drogba, and the header
Nice.
against Bayern Munich 2012. I always say to people that was the first time football made me cry. And you know what's funny about it as well? Like, I never cried in front of my dad, obviously apart from when he slapped me, which was when I was younger, when I was understandable.
Yeah.
But when I remember I was like 15 at the time, and then 15, 16. Drogba scored that header. I mean, it's two. The header was special because we got back into the game. But then when that penalty, when I just saw Neuer dive one side and then the penalty went the other, honestly, Jack, I just had tears come on my face. I had to leave the room and just go outside in the back garden and just take it in. I felt like I'd played the game. Do you know what I mean? I felt like I'd been on a journey with them. So that was
the beautiful game. The beautiful game.
No game like it. That was my favourite moment supporting Chelsea, for sure, that day.
Love it. Love it. And I guess just transitioning for those that are listening, I know, you know, if you're still listening, thanks so much. I'm sure you've got better things to do than listen to us ramble on. But I guess, you know, just going to Chelsea at the moment, you know, it's obviously super competitive, the league. Liverpool are going to go again. City have just signed Haaland. You've got Tottenham. We've just got the top four. I think Perisic is about to sign. United have, you know, having a new manager coming in. I'm sure they'll sign some new players. It's so competitive. Where do you see Chelsea next season? Obviously, there's again a change of ownership, so hopefully you can hang on to Tuchel. We'd love to hear how you think you're going to do next year.
I mean, it's tough, Jack. A lot of great teams, scary teams. I mean, our ambition right now is obviously to close the gap with City. We have to close that gap with City and Liverpool. But I think the owner coming in on the back of us winning the Champions League a year ago and fans having high expectations. I mean, I've already heard him say, Todd Bowley, I've already heard him say that, you know, they plan on investing in the squad and making us competitive. I think what is interesting for us is he'll want to get the fans on side. This is like his first summer. So fingers crossed, higher hopes that he really makes a statement. He backs the manager. He buys as many players as possible. Well, not as many players as possible, you know. And honestly, Tuchel still needs to get his team together. I wouldn't be surprised if next season we're right up there. Because the way the season started, the thing that let us down wasn't the manager. The thing that let us down was individual errors, injuries to key players at the fullback, and a striker that wanted to go back to his parents, to his team mid-season. That striker that came in for 97
Never a good look.
Never a good look. So, of course, that really unsettled us and everything else that was going on as well. You know, so I'm really excited. I think top two next year for sure.
Yeah, completely agree that, you know, if you look at the fine margins, you know, you're right up there at the start of the season looking, you know, pretty good. And then obviously the two finals you lost to Liverpool was fine margins. It was just penalties. You could have ended up with a bus parade with two trophies, you know, on Sunday as opposed to us. So yeah, I think Chelsea, as long as you build at the back, obviously you've got Thiago Silva who's getting on, you've got Rudiger who's leaving to Madrid. As long as you have a few signings at the back, you guys for sure will be right up there.
Absolutely.
And then Tommy Tuchel, talk to me about his management style. I know you're a massive fan of him.
Oh wow!
You know, before he came to the UK, I had no idea about him, and still don't know too much. So I'd love you to speak about Tuchel and obviously Roman leaving. Your thoughts there, and how you think the Americans are going to do as new owners of Chelsea.
I have to start with the order that makes sense. I've started with the new owners. I think the new owners are going to be incredible. Yeah. I think they're going to be amazing. I think they've come in with expectations high. They simply have no other choice but to meet them. And then Tommy Tuchel, like, what a guy, what a man, what a leader. Because when you speak about, you know, sports and sales, these similarities, you do look to sports to try and get motivation and inspiration by people. I think being in a leadership position, to see how well he handles pressure, to see how transparent he is, to see how honest he is, to see how demanding he is of himself to begin with, and then how demanding he is of the people around him, extremely inspiring. That's why I think the new ownership are going to trust him, because he's got everything that we need. He's got a, you know, winning mentality. I mean, he's got a presence about him as well. So I think we're not too worried in that regard. But Roman leaving. It's an emotional one for us Chelsea fans, because listen, you've got United, who are sort of one of the biggest clubs in the world, right? But Roman's come in and we've won every single trophy available to us in his tenure. Like, and to be where we were when he came in and to where we are today, it's inspiring. It's incredible. It's just humbling as well, because you realize that, you know, this is somebody that cared about your team, like just a random billionaire that really came and immersed himself in the culture and the fans, and he really cared about us. And even as he was leaving, he made sure to include certain clauses in the contract that wouldn't allow the club to be taken advantage of. I think that in itself shows you how much you love him, but I think that's how much you love the club. Like with anything though, it has to come to an end. Roman's God, but Chelsea lives on. And I'm sure he'll be watching from afar and supporting the team. But it's sad for us. Obviously, it didn't make sense because, of course, what's going on in Ukraine is bad, right? What Putin's doing is bad. But I didn't see what a football team had to do with an individual's actions and stuff like that. So, you know, we get over it. And it's a shame how we went out. But I think we'll always remember him fondly.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. It's interesting how well he's done from a business standpoint as well, running the club. I think is it Marina who leads up the? I'm not sure if she's one of the head directors at the club.
Football operations, really.
That's pretty powerful. Seeing, you know, what a job she's doing at one of the biggest football clubs in the world, and how she can manage the transfers in and out. You know, even selling Hazard for the money you guys did. I think they're very cute, the way they do their business. So it's interesting to see how they get on in the next transfer window. But yeah, with I guess Roman leaving Chelsea, obviously new opportunities are going to come. I think that's quite a good way to finish the podcast. Jay, it's been an absolute pleasure. For those that are listening, thank you so much for you know, listening to the end. We're going to have more of these with myself and Jonny. But yeah, any closing thoughts from you, Jay?
No, the pleasure's mine. Thank you for having me on. I think anyone listening as well, you know, thank you for listening. But I'm excited to see where the rocket ship that is Entr Tech takes us. I mean, I'm really excited. I think from the conversations that, to summarize it all, right, the conversations we've been having on our side internally, seeing what's going on and the reactions and, you know, from the candidates and their experiences, I'm super excited to get as many people involved in the journey as possible. Even doing the podcast, for example, and bringing sports into it. It's about really just creating a hub where people can come and share knowledge, motivate, inspire each other. But most importantly, provide opportunities for people that desperately need one. Yeah,
that's amazing. Great way to finish. And for those of you that are, you know, watching, listening, I'll put in Jonny's link down below to his LinkedIn, so you can connect with him, message him, follow him on all the good socials. If you could please like, subscribe, follow, do what you do, that'd be fantastic. And hopefully we'll speak again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jay.